Hello and welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is the last edition of Science to Data Science for this year, so for the year of 2022. Good to have you here. It's just me today going through this with you. Just a quick reminder that the live stream works on YouTube, it works on Facebook, and it should also work on LinkedIn. So wherever you are and you're joining us, hello and welcome. I have material prepared for you, so I'm going to take you through a number of slides as you would normally do in such an online event and show you how to do science to data science, how to move from here to a role in a data job, data analytics, data science, data engineering over the next few months, if you so want to. Very, very pragmatic, all the way down to what does an industry-ready curriculum vitae and LinkedIn profile actually look like. I am in the main actually then here to answer your questions. So my expectation is that the audience today is highly knowledgeable, that you probably have programming experience in Python, that you know why you're doing this, that you know that you want to do this and that you want to move across for a first or second role. And I'm here, so to speak, to answer your questions. Okay, so we have a chat function wherever you're watching. I've also just introduced the chat function for you. You can see it. You can see it here. So you can please fire away any questions or comments at any time, and I will pick them up. Actually, there is a chat overlay, so everybody will be able to see them. I will pick them up and address them as we go through. Okay. So I'm going to take my face out of this now and switch to the presentation mode. Here you go, Science to Data Science, PhDs and MSCs. So this is for PhDs and master students moving to startups in industry. If you're a postdoc, you're a PhD, so welcome too. If your PhD or your master's is a while ago and you're still kind of moving to startups in industry, welcome too. So this should work for everybody that is looking at moving to startups in industry for a first or second data role. Okay, let's get going. Off we go. So the first thing I would like to do is just show you 10 examples or mention 10 examples. Now, the way I would like you to look at this is just to understand that if you look at the names, so to speak, there's Macarena, Karthik, Dina, Juan Jiangmeng, Lisa, and so on and so on. These people come from all over the world. We've also compiled a list that has 6 women and 4 men. And we've compiled a list that has somebody in economics, somebody in biology, somebody in the social sciences, somebody in physics, somebody in medicine, you name it. So what all these examples have in common is high levels of numeracy. High levels of numeracy means that they've been studying a discipline that requires numeracy. This can indeed also be the social sciences if you're strong in statistics, and that they have some experience with numbers and perhaps also, most interestingly, with statistical thinking. Okay, so the high level of numeracy is the foundation for any sort of data career, and lots of people have that. So in principle, there's no lack of talent. So these people come from different countries, different disciplines, men and women alike, and they've started their data career. And to start their data career, what they needed is Python, R, SQL, mainly Python and SQL, today maybe even already Julia as a programming language. When I was directing a bootcamp some 5 years ago, and I went out and talked to PhDs and master students and so on, and I asked, who's doing something in MATLAB, all hands went up. Today, when you ask in around, you ask for Python, then all hands go up. So something's also changed. So I'm trusting that most of you watching here today will have prior programming experience with Python, possibly even with SQL, that you've used online courses, that you generally have an idea and some practice already. So in this sense, I would consider you ready to make that move, okay? And I would like to follow on with a quote from somebody I trust. So Jean-François Garnier is a French-Canadian entrepreneur that's been busy in the AI space and really had, for some years, when it was important, like from 2015 to 2020, 2021, he was tracking the number of data professionals around the world, and he had some interesting numbers around on this. And he summarized it like this. So no matter who you are, yeah, self-improvement is one of the most important and actually also most overlooked attributes of young talents. And the point here was that he was saying that if you keep improving technically, but also, so to speak, in other competences around business, product, workplace communication, and so on, it takes you 4 years to become a senior and 5 already to be able to lead. This is the field at the moment, and this is the possibilities that you have. And the last time he looked at this for 2020, 2021, he found globally around 500,000 data professionals. So this was a relatively thorough piece of research using online resources to a full extent to try and determine. So in 2016, 2017, it was only like 50,000 people around the world. Then 5 years later, it was 500,000. So this is a 10x in 5 years. For your reference, the number of software professionals is around 15 million. So there's room to grow. And then the most important thing about this is 99% of the people were working on productionizing data and machine learning, and just 1% were in research by 2021. We have other resources that you can go to. So the slides that I'm presenting today, you will find on SlideShare. There are Medium publications that are that you can find that are associated with my name or with the AI Guild, and you would be able to use those resources freely should you be interested. Also, this slide is outdated, so you can join the community. If you are a data practitioner, then you could apply to join the AI Guild. We're now 1,900 people. And here's the link. So the guild.ai is where you find this. Okay, so let's get started. This is what we're going to do for you today. So we're going to first look at starting a data career. Then we're looking at the roadmap to getting hired. Then we'll look at the industry-ready CV, including also your LinkedIn profile. And if there's time, we'll do an outlook. So just to repeat to everybody, this is the moment where you can start asking questions. You can perhaps also share a bit of your background, if you like, on why you want to start a data career, and then actually what your most important question is. Something you see as an obstacle, something that you would like some advice on, anything you would like. I will pick it up and answer. And also, of course, anybody who's reading this in the chat as you're watching or seeing this, and you would like to contribute, so to speak, from viewer to viewer, please go ahead and do so. So Macarena and Dina for the final one are not here today. So I work for the AI Guild. So I'm a director there that is looking at data careers in the main. I also have an academic background, so I'm an alumnus of the Max Planck Society in Germany. I hold a PhD from the UK. I've been a Jean Monnet Fellow with the European Union. And if you like, you can find my profile on LinkedIn. And perhaps most importantly, a few years ago, I was directing one of these boot camps that you can go to for a career transition. Actually, back then, we were the only one in Europe. And I've been following up with data careers. So I work with seniors, I work with directors, chief data officers, entry-level people on data careers in analytics, machine learning, NLP, computer vision, so all of that stuff. I've been doing that continuously for a number of years now. So to some extent, actually, I've seen it all. So time for your questions. Okay, starting a data career. So it's been true for 5 years that data career has been the fastest growing labor market for the highly qualified. And I think it is even so. The same is true for the next 5 years. Now, I know that we've had COVID that actually accelerated it. And I know that there is a lot of economic uncertainty around the world at the moment because globalization is broke. There have been going on several wars. The latest is the big war with Russia attacking the Ukraine. And we've seen layoffs in tech companies in Europe, and you've probably noticed the big wave of layoffs, not just Twitter, that's kind of like, a special case, but also big waves of layoffs across other tech companies in the United States. So yes, at the moment, actually, the market is temporarily shrinking. Um, um, but it is for sure that it's, to my mind, it is for sure that it's going to pick up again. Why is this the case? For most companies that depend on software, or who need to modernize whatever they're doing if they're a traditional company by also using software more, data is pretty much a do or die question over the next 10 to 15 years. So either you do it, or the value of your company will slowly slide towards zero. So they will have to do it or face the consequences. And let me put it like this. So you may have heard the bon mot that software is eating the world. Yeah, true. But the software that is eating the world is also always there to collect data. Now, just think of any of the favorite companies that you're using that is software based. They really heavily depend on data. They depend on the user data, the customer data, the log file data, the web data that they have. They use data to optimize, automate. They use data to play out recommendation systems, so on and so on. So wherever you see that software is eating the world and you are actually a heavy user of the software, in the background, over time, these companies, to stay on the market or possibly even be a market leader, have had to become data driven. That's the name of the game. So you build the software to collect data, and then it's the data that actually drives your company. If you don't do that, also as a software based company, you will go away because your competitors will use the data for the automation, for the improved customer experience, for the recommendation, for driving their business, for more business value, if you're e-commerce, for larger basket sizes, and so on and so on. So this is the fastest growing labor market for the highly qualified. And whatever, problems in the meantime, I think it will continue to be like that for the next 10, 15 years. It may plateau at some point. So like the market for software developers has, I think, it's slowed down. It's not a steady plateau, but growth has slowed down. But it's at 15 million. Now we can debate whether there will be 15 million data professionals, but there will for sure be millions. And at the moment, so like a year and a half ago, we were at 500,000. So maybe we're reaching a million now. So there's room to grow. And if you like, you can be part of that journey. Now, so you're thinking of switching. So you want to do this and you're wondering, overall, the advice is always switch as soon as possible. Now, and switch as soon as possible. Actually, it says here you have the degree and like 12 months of Python experience. And that's the thing. So you need to make sure that you have the necessary requirements, but then you should work on switching as soon as possible. I think there is no real value in staying in academia, and I've even seen people drop out of a PhD program and moving to a data career. So of course there's value in completing the PhD, and if you're close to completion and you actually like doing your PhD, please complete. But if your PhD, for example, is not working out at all for you and you've got a stretch of 3 years ahead of you and the relationships with your supervisor and anyway, and you're not, switch as soon as possible. The thing is also, data careers are made with experience. So the experience that you gain in industry or startups is much more valuable than any further academic experience that you might have. And if you're listening today as a postdoc, then the situation is already changing for you. So, like 5 years ago, you could start a data career at PhD plus 5 and PhD plus 7, and even PhD plus 10 sometimes worked. This opportunity is going away fast. So, if you're a PhD plus a number of years, get going. Because the number of master degrees and even the number of bachelor degrees around data are increasing. And you know this. So if you're 35 and your competition is 25, that does not necessarily work out to your advantage, particularly if your postdoc is long, because you do not gain any additional experience that would be of value in a startup or industry. So you already have attained the highest level of numeracy. You know you can work independently. You're great at project management. You can communicate. You can write. All of those things, once you've completed the PhD, you are extremely qualified to do. And the postdoc actually doesn't do anything for you except prepare you for a further academic career. So if you're thinking of leaving and you know that postdoc conditions are not really that great, and you've calculated your odds of becoming a professor, which are very low, and you've come to the conclusion that this is a viable option, please move. Switch as soon as possible. Now, into more details. So, what data role do you actually seek? Where is this going? What is it that you would like to do? I think it's important to see that there isn't just the data scientist. Let me put it like this. So, over the summer, we were hiring, and I noticed that if we put out an advertisement for a data scientist, we got 10 times as many applications as we got for a data analyst or a data engineer. Really interesting. And also a really great pointer, actually, because it just means that the buzzword works. People see, this data scientist is still the sexiest job of the 21st century. And data analytics and data engineering doesn't get that much traction, which is an opportunity. So if I were you and you're looking for a first role, I would look for all those data analytics and data engineering stuff. And I'm also willing to take questions on this, because chances are you are actually at a point where you could do any of those three. You probably have the basic qualifications, and now you need a focus. And then, if everybody's going for data scientist, why not go for the other two? And they have real clear advantages. Okay. The clear advantage of being a data analyst is you're much closer to the business. You much faster pick up on where an industry or a startup is going, what's important to them business wise, what the business case of data is, and so on and so on. This is extremely valuable. And data engineering has the distinct advantage that you are working on the foundations, you're working on the industry, on the infrastructure, you're getting to know the data intimately. Yeah. And data, and this is the point, the data is the foundation of everything. The analytics, the science, the machine learning, the computer vision, the NLP, whatever. No data, no high quality data, not enough data, a leaky data infrastructure, pipelines that aren't working, the company isn't going very far. So actually being a data engineer and focusing on that is really, really cool. Okay, I finally have the first question come in. At 42. So thanks for sharing this, Matthias. No, you're not too old, but you do need to do it now. So this is really the right moment to get started. I have accompanied people that have been 50 years old and made the transition successfully. Sorry. But yes, the statistical probability, the odds, okay? The odds at the moment are not working in your favor, and you would need to anticipate that it can take you up to 12 months to manage your transition successfully. So from now until the end of next year, you need some patience. You need a really great CV. Your LinkedIn profile needs to be up to scratch. It needs to be, we'll get to this in a minute, it needs to be of the sort where a recruiter or a hiring manager says, okay, I want to talk to this person. But this can be done. So you're not too old, but it's going to take you a little longer, and you really need to get going. Any follow-up questions, I'm happy to take. So here comes the next one. I'm a 35-year-old computational biophysicist, okay, finishing the third postdoc. Yes, okay, so thank you for this, Julian. Yes, and indeed, if you're finishing the third postdoc, it really is time to get moving. And if you come out of computational biophysics, yeah, you have everything that it takes. My only question back to you would be, how much experience do you have with Python and or SQL? And then depending on the level of experience you have. So for a data analyst, the programming experience requirements are not quite as stringent as for a data scientist or a data engineer. So maybe that is where you should go. And if you're in biophysics, there are enough companies that would also want your domain expertise. So this would go together really well. Okay, moving on. So where to? Now, we're also going to be talking about industries like, finance, pharma, tech startups, new e-commerce companies, new finance companies, the new banks, and so on and so on. There's ways of to think about this. So sometimes you are in an academic domain where it's kind of quite clear where your industry might be, or maybe you have an idea. But there's a second one, which is why I'm showing you this slide. So something that would really help you is if you perhaps already know, do I prefer large companies? Do I want to work for a startup, or am I somebody who could work in consulting? If you know that, great. If you don't know that and you're looking at this and thinking, okay, talk to yourself, talk to a couple of friends, and try and figure this out. And then how to think about this. Okay. So corporate means simply you have a big organization, right? It comes with a certain amount of security, particularly, say, in European labor laws, it comes with a lot of security. It also means you have to handle a lot the organization and your colleagues, and there will be a long, chain in terms of line management and other things that come with a big organization. So maybe you like it, or maybe you don't like it, but you can explore it. Maybe you have a friend that works in a corporate, talk to them about what it means to work in a large organization. And if that is you, you know in which direction you're searching. And this is really helpful because you can also really on your LinkedIn and CV state that you would prefer working in a large company, or you would prefer working in a consultancy firm, or prefer working in a startup. This speaks to this type of company because then they know that you've thought about this, okay? And you have an opinion, or you have an inclination. And that's actually really valuable if they're trying to figure out if they want to talk to you and you might want to work for them. So startup, right? Small, dynamic, possibly high pressure environment. But if it's a scale up, also moving very fast, also fast career opportunities, three other things. And then consulting. And then consulting could be really interesting, particularly if you're a bit unsure. So consultancy firms typically love PhDs. They also love Master of Science people. They love them. They appreciate you for your intellect. They appreciate you for your academic experience. They appreciate you for your rigorous methodological approach. They know that their clients also typically love you because they hire consultants to be working with smart people. So they like this. The big benefit for you in consulting is that if you are not yet really clear which industry or which type of company is, you go and work there for 2 to 3 years, and you work on different projects, different industries, different type of companies, and so on and so on. You get this experience, and you get this experience fast, and you have an orientation, and you're then on the inside. Yeah, you become an insider fast. The downside, of course, it's a consulting job, so it's 60 hours a week, possibly. Maybe you have to travel, and all the other things that come with it. And then again, maybe you have a friend that works in this type of company. So figure this out and use it to focus your search. Okay. So I have another question that I want to address. This is from Nurul. Thank you. You mentioned data engineering is a good thing to go for considering less applicants, but will that require an engineering background? No. Or let's talk about what it means, what the engineering background means. So my favorite example for this is always an area in physics called astronomy, and then sometimes even more specifically radio astronomy. So radio astronomers, as you know, they have these huge telescopes on, actually I'm at the moment on Tenerife, so there's also one here. There's one in Chile, there's some in Germany, there's some in China. All over the world, they have these large radio telescopes. And these telescopes collect enormous amounts of data every day. And the PhD students will always be handling this data. Whatever they do, they need to actually data engineer to have some results and contribute to radio astronomy. Okay. So, to my mind, a PhD in radio astronomy is an engineer. Why are they an engineer? Because they spent 4 years wrangling the data, analyzing the data, building data pipelines, and so on and so on. These are actually genuine engineering tasks. The same is in the large field of computational XY, so computational sum discipline. There's also a lot that you do there that is actually engineering in fact, even if it's not called like that. Okay. And when I said no, I meant no, it doesn't require a software engineering background. And actually, just because you're a software engineer, you're not a data person. This is not the same thing. And a computer scientist can actually be really bad at data. And just because you're a software engineer, it doesn't mean you're a good data engineer. And sometimes companies actually do make the mistake and just think we need data engineers, so any software engineer will do. But it's not true. So as a data engineer, you better love the data. Yeah, you cannot build pipelines blindly. You need to have an understanding of that data. and love the data may sound like a exaggeration, yeah, but it's the thing, right? So you want these pipelines to work, and yes, part of that is coding, but a large part of that is also, what data is going in, and is this data of sufficient amount? What's the quality of it? How do I need to clean it? How do I need to prepare it? What do I actually need to do with the data as it goes into this pipeline, so that at the end of the day, somebody can build a model, a product, whatever these outcomes then are. And that's it. You really need to like doing that, and you need to have this data understanding. So yes, it helps if you have been doing stuff that can be factually classified as engineering, but then also you need to want to go in that direction. And then, of course, if a radio astronomer is looking for this transition, to take that example again, it's not sufficient to say I have a PhD in radio astronomy. You actually need to tell people in your CV and on your LinkedIn that this means that you have de facto been engineering data for 4 years. Yeah, that you need to show them that. Because in industry, of course, they have no clue what radio astronomy is, and you might get lucky and your hiring manager was a former radio astronomer, but don't assume that. Yeah, so you really have to tell people how good you are at this and how much you've done of it, and then I think this is doable. Okay, Norals, I hope that helps. Again, I'm willing to take up follow up. Okay, so this was just Julian, the computational biophysicist, saying yes, 3 years, Python and SQL only basic. Okay, so Julian, you're good to go. 3 years is, you see, what you need to see is that 3 years experience means that you probably have more experience than a lot of people already working in industry. Okay, so this is good enough. I'm going to take up this next question while you're just perhaps quickly looking at this which industry question. So I've spoken about the type of company and then which industry. What I really want to say here to you is, please use a particular keyword, i.e. called market maps. So this is an AI 100 market map. Use market map AI and machine learning, market map finance, market map startups, market map something, market map startups in France, to find such visual representations that are nicely organized for you into categories. So the point here isn't the many logos; they're not actually interesting. They companies do this because there's business value in showing some clients these logos, but the value for you is in the categories. So they have to categorize all these companies, and they give you categories that you can look at and decide, this sounds interesting, or no, I know I don't want to be in marketing. I know that. Oh no, I don't want to be in finance. But conversational AI or automotive or mobility more general, this sounds interesting to me. Okay, and then you can go and explore. So this slide is for people that don't know which industry but would like to move quickly. So find like 10 market maps around certain industries or certain topics that you're interested in it. Spend like 6 hours, do a list of everything that remains that you're potentially interested in, and you should have narrowed down your industry choices in a few hours, and be ready to move on. Then combined with startup, corporate, consultancy, and actually you have a search direction already. Yeah, so you know where you're going, you know what you're looking for, your plan A. Okay, so Garima, thank you for the question. I'm a physicist and recently completed my first postdoc of 2 years, where I was mainly working with Python and other data analysis tools for analyzing experimental data. Okay, so you're a ready-to-go data analyst. I also did a 3 month bootcamp in data science in Berlin. However, my application, now you can't see the rest, but wait a minute, I can see the rest, mostly get rejected without even any interview calls. I don't know why this is happening and what can I do to change this? Okay. Yes. So there's a number of things going on there at the moment, Garima. So one is, if you say you were in Berlin. So mm, the economy at the moment is doing la la. Actually, it's much less in recession than everybody was anticipating so far. I don't know. I think the UK has been in a recession for 2 quarters now, but Germany, for example, hasn't. The United States already seems to be picking up again, and the inflation is going down. But yes, so the past 6 months have been difficult, and many companies actually have not been hiring or have been letting people go and felt uncertain, and this alone is an issue. But there may be other issues. So it's important that you've done the training, but the training as such doesn't get you a job. So companies in Europe don't know how to handle these online certificates. So you can do as much Coursera as you like. This doesn't, HR doesn't do anything with this. With the boot camps, it's a bit better. There are companies that recognize this, that you've made these steps, and that you've actually completed an intensive training program. But then again, may or may not. And then it depends actually. So I would now need to actually understand what you've been searching for and how you present it. And the issue there is the following. So there is no lack of talent any longer. Okay. So there's no lack of talent anywhere. Because of all the online learning and the way the academia has changed and three other things, there are sufficient data talents. Maybe to some extent, actually, there are now more data talents than there are entry-level positions available. So there's a bit of a crunch there. And I also know from experience that if companies, half reputable companies, half well-doing companies, put out an application for a junior level data scientist, they will get 200 applications. And they're only hiring one. So 200 down to one. So you need patience, but then really also the question is, what are you doing? So how good does your LinkedIn profile look? How well is your CV structured? Does it really make clear absolutely what you're looking for? Now, I don't know your case, but by, so to speak, way of general advice, one of the things that you shouldn't do is work with a generic CV. Okay, this actually doesn't work. Yeah. So let's come to these pragmatics, and I have here for you, so to speak, what are the 4 essential components of the industry-ready CV? So first, on your CV and also on LinkedIn in your About section, you need to be able to showcase your technical skills. And you need to be able to condense and showcase your technical skills that somebody gets it in 60 seconds or less. So it needs to be so well organized, the right keywords with the right examples and so on and so on. It needs to be so well organized that at a glance, I see your technical skills. This really is the most important first step, because anybody who's thinking of interviewing you needs to, get it and be interested. Okay, that's number one. At the top of your CV. At the end of your CV, and perhaps somewhere in your LinkedIn profile showing your professional experience, you need to also demonstrate your business skills. Yeah, business skills, communication skills. Sometimes it's called soft skills. Also, I don't like that, because business skills can also be hard, analytic. And if you're coming out of academia, you can use your search engine to put in transferable skills from academia, and you will see there's a whole body of literature and advice around this, how to take your academic skills and indicate how they're transferable to business. So this is also really important. So somebody sees your technical skills, but they do need to understand that you know what business skills are, that you have some of them, because that's the point. The company is hiring you because they actually need to do more business, make money. So that's equally important and is a important differentiator. Then the third part is that somewhere on your LinkedIn CV, you have to tell people about your data experience. I already spoke to that with the example of the radio astronomer. So it's not enough to say you've been doing radio astronomy. You need to be specific. You need to show them that you've been handling terabytes of data with Python and you've been doing this for years. Yeah? That is the, clinches it. And then really, I've been talking to you for the past few minutes about your search and mission statement. Yeah? You need to be clear. So I'm a data analyst. So Garima, I'm going to just pick up on your example again here. So let me just put that in before. Yeah. So you could say something, I'm a data analyst with a PhD in some part of physics that you were. And 2 years, 4 years, don't know, of experience with analytics, doing X, Y, Z. I have upgraded to machine. I now also have machine learning skills, and I'm actually looking for a role. I don't know, in a mobility startup in Berlin or Germany, from so and so and so and so. Yeah. So to get really specific, so to make it a match, and to have some focus, because if that company is getting 200 applications, they need to whittle that down to the 20 people they actually want to talk to in the first instance. Unless you clearly signal that this is the direction that you're going, they have little incentive to interview you. Okay, Garima. So I've been talking to this generally. I don't know your specific case. If you want to send me something or show me your LinkedIn profile on LinkedIn, please go ahead and do that. And if you have follow-up questions, please ask, because obviously I don't know the specifics. Okay. Excellent. So thank you, Faye. What transferable skills are considered to be valuable for STEM subject PhD that is non-data science or coding related when applying to a data science job? So by the way, under transferable skills, you could now put your coding skills too. If part of what you were doing is a lot of coding, I would repeat it there. Okay. Of course, you say it at the beginning, but I would repeat it at the end of my CV just to drive home the fact that you have those coding skills or hard analytic skills or something, just to do that. And then other things that you have is project management or communication skills. So if you're STEM subject person, maybe you were working in a lab, maybe there was lab management, maybe there was weekly or monthly progress meetings, maybe you had to do reporting. You certainly did publications. You spoke at X conferences in English and some other languages over 3 years with audiences up to 300 people. All of this is that transferable skills. Okay. It may also, maybe you were in a student society, maybe you led a student society, maybe you have been mentoring people, and so on. Of course, the trick here is mm, the trick here is to make them transferable. Okay. So the point here is the point here is think of it like this. The point is not to list your academic publications, because apart from the academic peers around you, nobody will understand the titles of your publications. You know, they will already not understand the titles. So that doesn't help them. But what does help them is to say, I have published or I have co-published 5 articles. I was a first author 2 times, and 3 were in high impact journals, or they had 651 citations, or whatever it is. Same is like, I reported weekly or monthly at progress meetings and then changed my project management plan. And so it needs to be specific but generic enough. Yeah. So you need to take it out of the academic context and find what is generic about it and highlight that. But in highlighting that again, you need to be totally specific. It gets credible when you say, I have 5 publications, 3 as a first author, and 2 in high impact journals. Somebody can follow that and they get an idea. You've published regularly. You were the first author on some, so you were the main contributor, and 2 went into high impact journals. Okay, so there's quality. Okay, that signals transferable skill. Okay, I hope that helps. If not, let me know. Okay, I want to take a quick detour before moving on. So something I know from experience is that the data community really is very international and very diverse, includes people that have moved countries, sometimes moved country more than once. So visa, local language, and everything else plays a role. And sometimes there can also be a time limit, so to speak. So you have a visa and it expires at some point. And if you have questions around that, please ask. While I'm not a lawyer and sometimes don't know the specific answer, I can speak to strategies. So the first thing to say is the whole data profession is international and English is the main language. It's the main and the first language for the data profession. And it is typically possible to get a job in most countries, perhaps not in all, but in most relevant countries based on English. It's possible. Some countries are more English friendly. So Germany, is perhaps more English friendly than say France. I don't know, but if you consider it, consider where you are and consider where you are at the moment, you can probably do it in English. Okay. Then, do you need the local language? So you may actually need that over time. So the one thing is it does actually increase your opportunities. And if you are planning to stay in the country, I have also moved around as an adult a bit. So if you're staying in the country for a bit, it typically pays off to get your local language to kind of fluent conversation level. So I like to think of this as I can hold a conversation over lunch or over dinner in the local language. That's where I would want to go. And that makes sense because it unlocks further career opportunities, and also particularly in terms of promotion, this then gets important. So you need to look at this and consider this, and make a decision for you of how you want to handle it, and whether you're going to make that investment in the local language. There's another way in which this becomes relevant, at least for some of you, because data is now increasingly in the local language. So while everything was experimental and people were sharing globally in 2015, 2019, um, and if you look, I don't know, look at Kaggle competitions, for example. Yeah, so there was always a way everything could be done in English. The moment, for example, natural language processing, so NLP, and language, text, speech, and such stuff becomes important as data, and it's in the local language. And the more also, even, say in the banking sector, more and more banks start doing data, and the banks are local. Sometimes the banks are smaller, or all their customers are in a particular locale, and it just needs to be done in French or German or Dutch or Danish or Spanish or Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese or Hindi or whatever. The more the local language matters. And then again, this is not that you have to be error-free grammatically or something, but you need to be at a level where you get it and you can work with this. So it does matter, and I think you need to look at that and make some informed choices. Okay, as we move on, I want to put on the next one. So thank you, Matthias, for getting back on this. I want to extensively deepen my Python and MS skills. Could self-learning on online platforms be enough, or do you recommend additionally doing a data science retreat bootcamp? Good question. And I have an answer that perhaps directs you a little differently. So, the big benefit of boot camps is you're not alone. You are in a cohort of extremely motivated people. You spend an intense 3 months doing something, and it does reliably get you from A to B in terms of confidence and ability to do something and deliver and so on and so on. It does that. The big advantage of online learning is you can do it on your own. You have an online community. It's self-paced. You can explore. You can start something, perhaps switch, and so on and so on. So it's more open, more self-determined, more exploratory. Whereas the bootcamp, of course, requires this commitment, and you have to pull through, because if you drop out in the middle of it, it's all for nothing. So those two things. Okay. But then, is it worth doing it? Or what is actually the prerequisite for doing this? So I think the issue at the moment is roughly the following. No matter whether you're doing online learning platform, or you're doing a boot camp, or you're doing Kaggle, by the way, you are always operating with toy data sets. And let me put it like this. Already 5 years ago, it was not cool to do yet another sentiment analysis based on the Twitter API. It was just not cool. It was not interesting. It'd been done a million times. It's just a finger exercise. And this is also the issue with the Kaggle stuff, or also something that the bootcamps struggle with, because they typically do not have access to real data. So real data as in real industry data that is live right now. Yeah. And this is the thing. So whatever you do here in this space, it only really pays forward if you are constructing and building a portfolio already. And what is a portfolio? So a portfolio means that you've settled on an industry or a data type, and you're continuously building in that direction. So whatever you do, you always work with finance data, okay? Or whatever you do, it's always computer vision. Yeah. or it's even more specific. Whatever you do, it's finance data, but it's always related to banking, or it's always related to insurance, or it's always related to payments. So if you're doing this and you want to stand out and you want to increase the odds of getting the type of interviews that you would like, it only makes sense if you are able to specialize right away. Yeah, if it's just finger exercises, it actually doesn't do enough for you. So you need to be able to specialize right away. I hope that helps. Um, as always, follow-up comments or questions required. So I want to go into the second step right now for the next 15 minutes before we then go to the specifics of how handling CV, application, job search, and so on. So I just want to give you a framework, tried and tested over the years now, of how to proceed and when to make which choices and which decisions. So I think your transition to a data role really comes in just 4 steps. So the one is the data exploration. This is, figuring out if this is really what you want. You want a data career, and if you're here today, you probably already have made that decision. Look at it in a minute. The second, and I've spoken to this a lot now, and I think this is really, really important. You need to make a domain choice. If you think you can't make a single choice, then think of this as plan A and plan B. But actually, you do. There is so much data talent out there. Entry level stuff has become competitive. The opportunities once you have entry level are great, but you need the poston's needle, the poston of the needle, yeah, the bottleneck. This is where you are. You need to get through that, and you really change your own odds by being firm on your domain choice, precisely as I've spoken about it. Yeah, which type of data, in which industry, possibly in which type of company, and why you for that. That is what makes the compelling thing. And if it's done really well, it really says that at the top of your CV or your LinkedIn in like 3 sentences or less, yeah, who you are professionally, what your strength is, and where you're going. It clarifies your domain choice, your professional mission. And only then do you do search or training. This is what we've been speaking all about. And then you need to make an informed decision. You should probably anyway do search. But for example, you've done stuff around with Python, and you actually know that you want to go in the direction of modeling. And I don't know, Python, you've already used scikit-learn, or you've used Keras or TensorFlow or something like this. Think of it like this. But you are really not, you want to do more of this. This is really where you want to go. You want to be that data scientist, the one that is building the models that are really that great that they go to production. But you're not quite there yet. So you do need training, right? And then it depends. You need to make an informed choice as to whether you do the bootcamp, for example, right now. Maybe you have a way of getting it funded from somewhere else, and then you do it now, and that's okay because you really want this skills upgrade. Go for it. Or you decide, okay, I'm at this point where actually really much more important for me is not that I get the first job. I have all the skills for data analyst. I know I'm, competing as a data scientist. I'm going to go as data analyst and do the training later on the job in the company, do a sabbatical, whatever it is, but I'll do it in a year or two. Depends on your situation. So there may be reasons for training and upskilling, and yes. So uh, if you need or want to do that, you do it. And then point number 4 is starting your data career. So this is really then the final part of negotiating contracts. Okay, and so what do I mean by this? What is a data career exploration? So you meet the requirements, 12 months Python, you've handled data, and so on and so on. So the first, I really have two pieces of advice here is find some people to talk to that have done this transition before you. Use your alma mater, use your institute, use the alumni network, use your friends, use meetups, use LinkedIn, whatever. Talk to some people. And no, you don't have to talk to 20. I think talking to 2 or 3 will actually do the job for you. But talk to them, find out what their job is like, get some tips and tricks. Also make an informed decision whether you are that data person. Yeah, you're going to be doing this from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Is that you? So talk to some people. And then really other thing is, please get your LinkedIn profile and your CV in order as early as possible. You will anyway be rewriting it, but don't put it off. Make sure you have an industry ready CV. You can use the same people that you're talking to show them to them and say, and I know this works now, yeah. So I've helped so many people over time that have helped so many other people over time that I really know that anybody who's been in the industry for 1 year or two, you show them your CV and your LinkedIn and sit down with them for half an hour, they can tell you what's working and what isn't. Okay, so I'm going to thanks, Matthias, for getting back to me on this domain choice. Um, so domain choice. It says here, so to speak, on my slide, by type of data, by data role, by approach, or by industry use case. So domain choice isn't actually that easy. There's kind of like two or three dimensions to this always. Let me explain it like this. So when I say automotive, maybe you're thinking autonomous driving. Yeah, sure. And that's what everybody was talking about. And now not so many people are talking about it any longer because it isn't coming. But autonomous. So the exciting part was autonomous driving. This idea that we could somehow get cars based on data to drive by themselves and actually do so in a much more safe way, environmentally better way, better user experience, less traffic jams, more mobility, and whatever. Okay, didn't happen, but we thought about this. Yes, and then if it was autonomous driving, right, it would be mobility. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be a car, but it's some sort of vehicle, so some sort of mobility by computer vision in the main, and then maybe integrating other sensors like LiDAR or radar or whatever else you have to then build something that moves autonomously. And that is a domain. Autonomous driving is a domain. Okay, that's a domain choice. But in automotive, you don't just have that. You have a wild array of use case. And I don't know, a car company also needs to do marketing. And then the marketing has some similarities even to what an e-commerce company is doing. So marketing analytics. So marketing analytics and automation of marketing processes is also a domain. It goes further. So an automotive company is also always necessarily producing a car or parts of the car, right? So they're an industrial manufacturer. There you go. Predictive maintenance of the machines, optimization of the supply chain process, predictive quality. So can I actually predict the outcome of the quality of the parts or the car that I'm producing? That's really important because industry example, wheels, not tires, but wheels. Okay. I once learned that the world's largest manufacturer of these wheels has a problem because 25% of the wheels that they produce are scrap. So the production process is done in such a way, or historically has been done in such a way, that 1 in 4 wheels has to be scrapped, and melted again and goes back into the production process. Now, if it's 1 in 4, imagine if you could do something in terms of predictive quality and optimizing the machine so that you get to 1 in 10. Yeah. So this is exactly the thing. Domain choice is a bit complicated. Now, before I've put you off and you think, you need to start with something. Okay. This is why this market map. So my suggestion for an initial choice is use an industry as a starting point. Yeah. So I'm in finance, automotive, insurance, banking, conversational AI, something like this. Use that, number one. And number two, actually use corporate startup consultancy. Small company, large company, consultancy, dynamic company, something like this. Those two choices first. Because, of course, at this point in time, you're not yet in industry. So it is not reasonable to expect you to know exactly whether it's going to be autonomous driving for the next 10 years for you, or it's going to be marketing analytics for an automotive company, or it's going to be predictive maintenance in the manufacturing of the car. It's not reasonable to expect you to be clear about this. Also for a company, not, unless you are, but if you're not, you're not. So the two most important ones are type of industry and type of company. Okay, I hope that helps. Um, Moving on, because I want to get through this in the next 5 minutes so that we have half an hour to get down to the specifics. Um, Search versus training. Okay. So, mm, really, what I'm saying is get your LinkedIn ready, get your CV ready, start searching, start talking to people, get your search and mission statement ready, and use all of that to then make an informed decision about whether you want to do training or not. Okay. Because the feedback on that will tell you. You show it to a few people. And they will, they can tell you this. So I don't know, very basic example. Yeah. If somebody says they want to be a data scientist, and then I ask back, so scikit-learn, have you used that? And they say, yeah. And then I say, how often? Well, I've been looking at it for a couple of months and I've done some exercises. Okay, this data scientist thing is not going to fly. Yeah. You need more than that. And on other specifics, other people that you know, or perhaps in industries that you want to go to, they will be able to ask you a couple of questions, or you can ask them a couple of questions to initiate the conversation. Say, please have a look at this. Do you think this is sufficient? Does it actually meet the necessary threshold and requirements to get an interview? They will tell you. And then you can make a much more informed decision about whether you invest in that training. And I think this is really important. So we don't very often think about this clearly enough, myself included. Um, Training has costs. Not only do you possibly pay for your training, but you are using your time to train. You're paying for this. While you're training, you're not doing something else. Particularly if you're first training and then start your job search, that may actually prolong the period of your transition by a lot. Okay. So I can also tell you that when I was directing a boot camp, I got my participants in the first 4 weeks. And by the end of week 4, everybody had a job market ready CV and LinkedIn. Not at the end of the boot camp after 3 months, but after 4 weeks, everybody had to have that. It's one of the first things I learned. So, one of the first things I learned is that I had to screen bootcamp participants for employability, that it was really no point taking on a participant where I wasn't 100% confident about the employability afterwards, because also there's nothing meaner than asking somebody to participate and give their time to bootcamp if there's no realistic chance of them, or not a high enough chance of them getting a job afterwards. So you really need to screen for employability. And then the other thing that I really learned very fast is there's no day to waste with the job search. From the get-go, you've got to be on this. Also because it always takes longer than you expect. And you may need to iterate, and you may need to get your friends to help, and you may need to find time. So there's also this issue that, yes, you can send your CV to human resources or show them your LinkedIn profile when you're applying on LinkedIn. But actually, that is not really the best possible strategy. As always, what you want to do is you want to, search your mission statement, be clear where you want to go, and then you want to find the side entrance. The side entrance. So, in consulting, this is known as bring a friend. So, consultancy companies and now Twitter for years have been doing the following. They go to their employees, preferably to their more senior ones, not the very senior ones, but those that have been in the company for 2 to 3 years, and say, who can you recommend? Do you want to bring a friend? Is there somebody that would be a good fit for our company? Consultancy firms also incentivize their employees because if they do hire a friend, they pay a bonus. Why do they do that? Because these recommendations are very valuable. They're much cheaper than the traditional marketing and recruiting game. And they've learned that they just lead to better outcomes. There's a downside to this, so to speak, from an independent vantage point, because if you start doing that, you start hiring the same people. So you start hiring for sameness. Yeah. So friends bring their friends, bring their friends, bring their friends, and then everybody looks the same. But this bring a friend thing is a reminder to you that if you really want to work for a company, you need to find people that are already working in that company, talk to them, and kind of find the side entrance. Ideally, you get an existing employee to give your CV to human resources and follow up with them until they've interviewed you. Yeah, and it takes time, so you need a bit of time. Okay, a final point. I've already actually speaking about, so to speak, if you start your data degree, you need to understand that your network contacts, recruiting firms, and direct applications are all equally important. So you get your CV placed directly in front of the hiring manager. that perhaps you need to practice your interviews. You also need to live with the fact that it's unlikely that your first 3 interview processes immediately lead to an offer. So you need to accept that also you are learning as you are applying. And then you should also ideally make sure that it is a match as much as you can. So there's nothing, for me, there's nothing more frustrating than people calling me after 4 months and saying, Chris, I don't know how to say this. Yeah, we have no data. So they got hired by a company whose data infrastructure is crap. Or Chris, I don't really know how to put this. This really isn't working. It isn't working because X, Y. Yeah, because actually the manager that I'm working for is da 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 da, and actually I already saw that in the recruiting process. Or the company isn't moving forward because and this was and so on. So do some counter checks. This needs to work for you. It's your career start. You should ideally be very confident that this will work for 2 years for you. That would be important. Okay, you can please give me more questions on this. This was the framework. And now I want to spend the remaining half hour that we have today on the specifics of this industry-ready CV or industry-ready LinkedIn profile, if you so like. So the experience that I'm coming from is having done this in Germany, but also throughout Europe a number of times, helping get people hired from everywhere, from Lisbon to Warsaw and Dublin to Belgrade. I've also worked with a couple of people that got hired in the United States. So that's my range of experience where I'm coming from, and I've done this for a number of years, a lot. This is just a refresher for you to remember. This is just a refresher to remind you that you need those technical skills, you need those business skills, you need to be really explicit about your data experience, and you need to focus your search with a professional mission statement, ideally. Okay, so what are we talking about? I'm going to give you right away an example of the technical skills. So this is what this could look like. Okay. Now, what's going on here? So this is a technical skills section on your CV. You could also copy paste that into your LinkedIn. What does it do? What does it do for the reader? That's the point here. So for the reader, it states right away X years of Python, and then below it gives the specifics of Python that this person is familiar with. Yeah. So NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, SciPy, Scikit-learn, TensorFlow. Okay. Above that, it says Python and R and SQL and Bash and C++ and so on, and also specifies the number of years. So this is really a very fast way of saying, I have significant coding experience, and there's really a wider variety of Python libraries, including those used for machine learning, that I'm familiar with. And the number of years here basically says, I'm a regular user. So a regular user doesn't mean that you've been doing this every day from dawn to dusk. But it does mean that you've been doing this like at least once a week. You've been working on something with Python, and those are the years. They don't necessarily have to be 4 consecutive years. Maybe overall it's been 6 years, and those 6 years, 4 years would count. But something like that, and it matters because you indicate your proficiency, in like one go in less than 10 seconds. I just look at this. 4 years Python, those Python libraries, I can check mark it. It's done. I don't really have any further questions about this. And I would be confident to move this person to a coding challenge. And then now the rest of this thing is organized, right? And it says ETL pipeline, and then it says data processing, and then it says DevOps. Okay, so here you go. This is a profile that has been organized in such a way to signal data engineering, really. Okay, ETL pipelines, processing, DevOps. Okay, DevOps, MLOps, ETL pipelines, so handling lots of data, building pipelines to extract meaningful information so that somebody else can do something with it. Data processing as such. And that's it. So show me technical skills like that, and I immediately have an idea of the data role the person would fit. And also that there is sufficient experience. Actually, there's probably more experience than required. So if this is a career transition from academia, the person is in some ways overqualified actually, and shouldn't be put on an entry level position, but a mid level position. But here you go, example. So I'm happy to take questions on those examples or comments as well. So here's another one. Technical skills, Python developer of the SciImage library, okay, which is an open source developer. So he's actually contributed to the development of that library. Okay, so if somebody has done that, I don't have a lot of further questions, right? Doesn't even require me now to say how much years of Python, and he's a Python developer, done. Then it says data analytics, databases, statistics, and data visualization. Okay, so I look at this, then I look at all the keywords below that, stuff that he's done. This can also include academic stuff, yeah, like large-scale simulation of plasmas. But I get this idea, analytics, databases, statistics, data visualization. Okay, data analyst. Yeah, actually with a lot of experience, and not just doing Tableau or using some Microsoft tools, but actually, with Python development, with Python coding experience. So would be able to build dashboard from scratch, presumably. So that works. Here's another one. With Python, MATLAB, and a bit more. And here it says data analysis, data visualization, machine learning, and IoT. Okay, we put in machine learning here, and then it says scikit-learn. So the machine learning experience is limited, but it's okay. It's okay to include something that's kind of like aspirational, right? So this is also supposed to work for you moving forward. So there's something there that makes this a profile that talks about data analysis, visualization, geared towards IoT, Internet of Things, machines. Okay. Now, in a country like Germany, where you have a very, very large manufacturing industry, as you do in other countries, this is interesting. Yeah. So this is a profile that moves in that direction, and should be interesting to a lot of companies. Okay, one more, or perhaps not one more. I'm going to skip. Sorry, I missed my mistake. It already says transferable skills. So I've spoken about technical skills, and I'm now on to transferable skills, which means that we're looking at, so to speak, this business skills question of persuading the other side that you would fit into that new type of working environment for you. Okay, so I have a question from Hajar. How can I showcase my skills for a junior data science role, knowing that I'm a PhD student in computer science? I was doing self-learning to learn data science and coding on my own. Okay, so if you're a PhD student in computer science, why do you want to be a junior data scientist? If you're willing to answer that, please go ahead. So if you are a PhD in computer science, nobody will have any sort of questions, I guess, about your programming capabilities. An interesting question is, why junior data scientist? Why not, for example, go into data infrastructure or data architecture, or data product or something like this, where your computer science skills might actually have a much bigger impact. Okay, but if you want a junior data science role, or you want let me take out the junior data science role, then really what somebody would need to see is that apart from being an ace in computer science, you understand data, you get data, you actually get statistics. So computer science can come with statistics, but you'd need to show that because it's not necessarily the case. So statistics, running data projects, having a portfolio, perhaps having a clear interest in what type of data you're interested in. And what type of data now means, it could be finance data or mobility data, but it could also mean, is it computer vision? Is it language data, NLP? Is it tabular data? What type of data? I'm saying it like this, I guess, because also in my experience, I have found that, interestingly, computer scientists and mathematicians very often had the hardest time choosing the industry domain. Yeah, so I mean, people in biology and medicine, often it's relatively straightforward and they just know. But so this would be an interesting question for you, the domain question, actually. And then, yes, you can show your data science or data skills by simply making that clear, if that answer helps. If you have more about that, then uh, or you want to comment or have more questions, let me know. That was not exactly. Oh, we can also use these transferable skills to discuss what I'm talking about. So, um, why am I back to technical skills? I apologize. This was not the idea. Use the next transferable skills. Okay, so I'm using this one. Um, so we have project management here. We have strategic thinking, and a couple of others that we're looking at. Um, so so what's going on here? What is it? That you want to show? Yeah, that you want to do here. Um, you, again, a bit like for the technical skills, you want to highlight certain things. Okay, so the highlight here is the project management, the strategic stuff, the interpersonal communication, and the expertise sharing. So you're making like claims. Okay, you're kind of like saying project, strategy, people, and then again people with expertise sharing or leadership is what I'm good at. Okay, now perhaps you have a CV or you've seen CVs where people list their soft skills and then they give you a long list. This is actually the worst possible option. Yeah. So soft skills and then a list, unsubstantiated claims. I really love these CVs where it says, I'm a creative thinker that really is enthusiastic about blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. Well, nice. Show me, before I even consider this, show me. And most people forget to show. Okay. And this is what this does for you. This is why it looks as it looks. You need to show, and you actually need to show and demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt. You need the check mark. You need the hiring manager and the HR to go, okay, we believe this. This is good enough. This is, we buy it. We might even have questions on this. That's why you have one or two or three bullet points here, and each of these bullet points gets so specific. So, project management. Principal investigator of 3 research projects, resulting in 6 peer-reviewed publications, conference talks, and research funding. Okay, so you want to ask me about project management? 3 projects, 6 publications, conference talks, funding. Okay, so this is beyond reasonable doubt. This just demonstrates that you can do this. And if you've done this in academia, you can presumably also do this in a company because you've done it 3 times. You just know this. Okay. Or develop scientific software tools absent in standard packages. Okay, so all projects always hit obstacles. This may be a particular obstacle, person got around it or over it. Really important. Somebody who's able not just to, do project management as in, I don't know, having a plan and then collating notes to it, but if it gets stuck, get it done. Okay. Okay. Strategic thinking, yeah, won 4 competitive calls. So if you've won 4 competitive calls, you can think strategic or distill technical research in related areas and so on. Okay, so this demonstrates it beyond reasonable doubt. Again, really important. Interpersonal communication. Discuss current projects and new ideas at weekly group meetings. So if you've been doing this weekly, you've been doing this weekly. Shared domain knowledge via seminar talks, wiki pages, and so on. If somebody asks you, you show them the 3 wiki pages, done. Okay, so the idea here really is to get specific, to make some claims, get specific, and get people to do that. Okay, I also mentioned data experience. So you have here in front of you an example about data experience. 1 hour plus research designs based on statistical inference and data analytics. I know what type of question can be answered with which data. So this is actually from the social sciences. Okay. I have utilized large-scale survey data at the national level, 3 countries, covering individual behavior and opinions towards political parties and regimes. Additional data included text data, global data, social demographic data. Yeah. The point is, you need to tell people. They have no idea. They don't want to start thinking about what it is that you actually need to tell them straight to their face. This is my data experience. And again, really specific, 100 research designs, large scale survey data, national level, text data, global data, social demographic data, really specific. Now, the point here isn't that the company needs to see that they're using the same data. That's not the point. The point is that the company needs to see that you know what you're doing, that you get the specifics of what you're doing. Yeah, that's what they need to see to be confident in you. Nothing is more off-putting than wishy-washy, high-level, abstract kind of claims like "I'm the most creative thinker on the planet." Doesn't do anything. The more specific you get, the better, and then because you're specific, you always have proof, and that also really helps you. So think about it like this, while showing you another one that you can read, a data vignette. Think about it like this. So you got the interview, you got a phone screen, and you're actually now interviewing in person or on a video call. And both of you are in the situation that you don't know each other. And you need to start somewhere. You need to talk. You need to get to know each other. You need to build a connection. Now, your data vignette, your data experience, your effort of describing something in a couple of lines of text is a great way to invite your interviewer to ask you a couple of questions to elaborate or follow on or whatever. Okay? Using Python and Bash to wrangle and analyze 70 terabytes of simulation data from IPCC models. So this is about climate change. Okay? 70 terabytes of simulation data. So a question I could now ask is, 70 terabytes, that's a lot of simulation data. So what was specific about the simulation data? Or can you tell me something about your experience of handling that much, these terabytes of data? And this is it. This is a winner for you. You just invited the company to talk to you about your experience. They're using this to talk to you. Yeah. And you leave that great first impression, or somewhere in the interview a great impression, because it's your turf. You are knowledgeable about this. You've explained something to them that is possibly also interesting to them because they actually asked a question about this. So most underrated, most undervalued on CVs these days is making the effort to write this vignette or write the experience. And notice about this, the point here is the following. It's not just to describe the tasks that you did. This isn't task oriented. The point is that it gives context, okay? It gives the bigger picture. It invites a conversation. That's what you can do. That's what's really interesting. Okay, here's another one about a data project using high-performance computing simulations on clusters with 1 million hours of computing time. So that's also always, it's like a fun fact, right? 1 million hours of computing time. What does that actually mean? Okay. 60 million data points per hour. What? And there you go. You start a conversation. Okay, I want to spend my final 10 minutes inviting you to give me some more questions if you like, but also to actually. So I have one more comment here that I just want to quickly show in. In 12 plus years, I did 90% MATLAB and 10% Python coding. So 10% of 12 years. I don't know. This is probably something you earlier said, I think 3+ years. So I think that's fine. Yeah. And yes, MATLAB is not something that's used in industry, but you do have 12 years of coding experience. So I think that also goes a long way. Yeah. So you've done all of this multiple times, repeatedly. You have a lot of experience. So I think that helps actually. Okay. I want to spend my final minutes on this search and mission statement. You're looking at one. You can read it if you like. You've probably heard the buzzword, the keyword of the attention economy, and that we all have such a short attention span. And of course, it's true in many ways. And this is why this is so relevant. So first of all, I think you need to make the effort of getting yourself a search and mission statement, mission statement that is 3 sentences or less, because it shows it shows you in front of a mirror, so to speak, that you know what you're doing and you know what you're looking for. Yeah, you have to condense it down to 3 sentences. The nuts and bolts. What is it? Once you do that, you can actually, if somebody also asks you, answer with confidence. You can also give it to somebody. You can, by the way, save tons of times because you put your search and mission statement on your CV and on your LinkedIn, and you no longer need those cover letters. You just saved a ton of time because no more cover letters. If it's on your CV, that is your cover letter, so to speak. I'm a data analyst with a background in environmental engineering, actively looking for a new role in Berlin, Amsterdam, or another metropolis. I'm well versed in utilizing services and packages, Amazon, Microsoft, Tableau, and I can build from scratch in Python. Working with data gives me flow, so I prefer a dynamic startup or company in an increasingly data-driven industry. Okay, so this is really fairly clear. Who you are, what you're good at, where you want to go. It's you. And it also helps people to help you. Okay, so if I see this and I know somebody or I hear somebody who's looking for some person like this, I can refer them. So this is it. This is the most condensed form, but also the best form to help you move forward, make new friends, make new connections, and actually get where you want to be. Here's another one. I'm a data scientist with a PhD focused on regularization theory, apologies for my English, and optimization. I have 4+ years of experience in data processing and modeling. I'm looking for a new challenge in Barcelona, Madrid, or Lisbon this was last year, preferably in a leading business team mitigating climate change and reducing the carbon footprint. Okay, so those kinds of statements actually do speak to that. I think most clearly and help other people to help you. And the other people are human resources, recruiting agencies, hiring managers, your friends, your networks, your colleagues, and so on. They can pick up on this and refer you or point out an opportunity. Okay, we have like 5 minutes left. At the moment, I have no further incoming questions. So if you do have one right now, please. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up for us for today. So I want to go back to something that I have been talking about as the most important, this domain choice. So there's also another type of way of looking at that. So I pointed out the market map. I pointed out the type of company, and then here's choose your industry. Everyone's winning, but some industries are winning bigger. So this is about investment into machine learning, data and machine learning, and which industries do most of it and which benefit most from it. Okay, so the life sciences and healthcare industries, for example, are very high on investment, but the returns have been slower in coming than in technology, media, and entertainment. Professional services invest a lot, and in industrial products and services, actually, the investment hasn't been so high, but the returns have been good. Same to some degree for financial services and insurance. So industrial products and services is like, for example, predictive maintenance. Top 100 AI startups in 2021. You can find the same for 2022. So back to these, use these market maps to do this. If you like, you can. There's this list of categories here. Go through them, cross out in your head each one that you intuitively know you don't want. See what remains, moves you forward fast. They also exist for specific industries. So you have the AI and fintech market map. Yeah, so we can look at that. It drills it down: debt collection, business finance, predictive analytics, compliance, fraud detection, asset management, insurance, personal finance, credit scoring, credit risk analysis. So stuff that helps you to orient fast. You also have it by country. That's what I'm showing you here. AI startups in Germany. There's even a European database where you get this, so you can find all of this. Here you have even almost, I'm showing you this because there's then so many categories by which you can filter this. And I'm doing this because I know from experience that if you're transitioning from academia to industry, this can sometimes be a pain point. But I'm saying you can solve this in one weekend. Okay, with that, I would like to close off. So I would like to close off on a personal note about organizing AI at scale. I'm showing you a famous data science hierarchy of need. Actually, this is from Monica Rogati, who was one of the first data scientists at LinkedIn and is now a VC in the field, a venture capital giver. Um, so data science has been the sexiest job of the 21st century only for 10 years, right? So this famous article was published in 2012 in the Harvard Business Review. So it's only a decade. And I'm here to say that in my mind, the next decade, so the next 10 years, will be much, much more interesting than the past 10 years. So this is also really the optimal moment to get started. Like between 2020 and 2025 or 2026 is perfect. Why is it perfect? Because we've left behind the, oh, we're experiment, oh, we're just doing a proof of concept, oh, we have like 2 data scientists but nothing else, oh, we don't know where our data is, oh, how do we build this? There's no tools we can use. We've left all of that behind. Any company that's what knows what they're doing will have a sizable data team, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people. They will be investing in their data infrastructure. They may already have it or they may not have it. If they don't have it, there are now enough vendors offering solutions. They are looking to actually make money, so increase revenue, have savings, improve the customer experience, whatever it is, but they actually have a real business goal in mind. So it's the time when AI is being organized at scale. It means there's a much faster learning curve for you. It means there are significant career opportunities as you move into the field and move on. And it also simply means that you're now embedded in a fairly strong and rapidly growing community of people that know what they're doing. And there's even an advantage to those that enter the field now rather than those that were around 10 years ago, because the groundwork has been done. And once the groundwork has been done, you can actually go at this, full throttle, full speed, full experience, full something, however you want to think about it. But it's there. So you still like 5 years ago, you you had to do too much on your own. If you saw, like, there was too much that put you in loops where you had to fix things, they weren't working, you had to do it again and again. So all of this is gone. We're now organizing AI at scale, and this is a terrific opportunity to enter the field and really also enjoy your professional career over the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, I'm done for today. So thank you very much for being with me. If you are looking for the slides, you can head over to SlideShare and you will find the slides, or you just head over to the AI Guild and its website to apply to join, or follow the AI Guild on LinkedIn if you like, or follow on our YouTube channel. Good luck with your transition. If you need to find me, you will find me on LinkedIn. And other than that, I wish you a wonderful rest of the Friday that you have. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.